our application is working, but it looks, well, ugly. So let's give it a little bit of CSS to make it look more appealing. Also, we will add some images to our pages as well. So rather than creating our own CSS, we can simply apply Bootstrap to our application and let it do its magic. To bring in Bootstrap, we are going to use the library manager in Visual Studio. We are not going to use Nugget because that is not meant to be used with client-side package management. So right-click the project, go to Add, and over here we have client-side library, and that's what we want. So here we can add the client-side library, and we want to keep the provider as CDNJS. So the library we want is Bootstrap, which belongs to Twitter, so we'll search for it. And here is Twitter Bootstrap. The current version of the Bootstrap is 4.3.1. However, I'm going to use an older one because I'm not familiar with the 4 version. So I'll use 3.3.7 because these are the styles that I know. And if I use the newer one, I'm not sure if it would throw something off in my layout. But you, by all means, can experiment with the newer styles. So next, we're going to target a location. And the target location we want is www.root. Remember, this is where all the static files are going to be placed, and Bootstrap is one of those files. We will also place their images and jQuery as well. So make sure that the target location is www.root/lib for library, and then simply, instead of Twitter Bootstrap, just Bootstrap. And click Install. And you will see over here that everything installed, and we have it in the www.root/library. And you can see the folder has been created here. We have the www.root. And inside we have the folder called lib, and in it Bootstrap. And we have the CSS and JavaScript that the Bootstrap needs. Now remember, the use of static files is actually configured in the startup class, where we set our application to use static files. When I go to my startup, so over here we have the use static files in our configure method, which will configure the use of static files for the ASP.NET Core. So we installed Bootstrap, but we are really not finished with it yet. And that's because Bootstrap needs a dependency on jQuery. So we need to install that as well. And we'll do it the same way that we installed the Bootstrap. And just like Bootstrap, we will install it in the www.root folder. So again, right-click the project, Add, and we are adding client-side library again. And we will install the jQuery. So let's search for it. So it's going to be jQuery. And we want to use a specific version, which one is the latest one, in this case 3.4.1. And by default, it remembers that we already created www.root folder, so it's going to place it in there in the library folder /jQuery. So let's install it. And you can see the folder was added here, and we have our jQuery placed in there. One thing I want to point out is that after we installed the libraries for the Bootstrap as well as for the jQuery in our root folder, it created a libman.json file. So let's just click that. And you can see here are the libraries that we just installed. We have the library for the jQuery as well as for the Bootstrap. And this is where you would manage them. If you wanted to uninstall one, for example, you just select it, and here from the drop down you would choose what you want to do. In this case you would, let's say, uninstall the jQuery, or updated it, or set some properties if you needed to. This is your library manager. I also supply the folder with the images for you to download with the source files, so simply copy the whole images folder and place it into www.root folder, because images are of course static files too. So I'm gonna create a folder here, call it images, and I will place all the images in it. Right now we are using, of course, just the links to images that are on the internet, but like I said, I'm supplying you with actual images that we can have in the root folder here. Now, although we are using Bootstrap for the CSS, or for the most of it, I have a little bit of CSS that I want to add here to style few elements on my pages. So in the root folder, I'm going to add another folder and call it content. And here I will add a CSS file that I will call site.css. So let's add a file from the web, and it's gonna be a style sheet. And like I said, I'm just gonna call it site.css. And I'm just gonna copy my CSS directly here. This is of course a course about ASP.NET Core, and like I said at the beginning, I expect you to know some of the CSS, so we're not gonna go over this. But it's basically just some CSS that will take care of some footer, thumbnails, and also carousel that we will be adding later. I will of course supply this file with the course as well, so you can just copy paste it into your project. So with the CSS in place, we can now go and update our layouts and our view to implement these style sheets.